Zazen.
Sentient beings are, from the very beginning, Buddhas. It is like ice and water. Apart from water, no ice can exist. Outside sentient beings, where do we find the Buddhas? Not knowing how near the truth is, we seek as far away. What a pity. We are like a person who, in the midst of water, cries and thirsts so imploringly. We are like the child of a rich house who has wandered away among the poor. The cause of our circling through the six worlds is that we are on the dark paths of ignorance, going astray further and further in the darkness. When are we able to be free from birth and death? As for Zazen practice of the Mahayana, it is beyond all our praise. The virtues of perfection, such as charity, morality, and the invocation of the Buddha's name, confession and ascetic discipline, and many other good deeds of merit, all these return to this. Even those who have practiced meditation for just one sitting will see all their twisted karma erased. Nowhere will they find twisted paths, but the Pure Land will be near at hand. With a reverent heart, if we listen to this truth, even once, and praise it and gladly embrace it, we will surely be blessed most infinitely. If we concentrate within and testify to the truth that self-nature is no nature, we have really gone beyond vain words. The gate of the oneness of cause and effect is open. The path of non-duality and true clarity runs straight ahead. To regard the form of no form as form, whether going or returning, we cannot be any place else. To regard the thought of no thought as thought, whether singing or dancing, we are the voice of the Dharma. How boundless the clear sky is samadhi. How transparent the perfect moonlight of the fourfold wisdom. At this moment, what more need we seek? As the truth eternally reveals itself, this very place is the lotus paradise. This very body is the Buddha.
Morning.
Morning.
Get yourselves comfortable, settle in. I learned yesterday watching Dakara that you can bring stuff with you. So I got, if you need a snack, help yourself. I do have enough to share, so not to worry. So I'd like to spend a little time this morning with the first precept. And it's presented in our sutra book as a firm life. And then after that, there's some interpretation and a little commentary. And it seems easy enough, right? Not too hard to grasp. Don't kill stuff. Mostly kind of don't kill animals for food. I mean, that's pretty much right. Good things. Hot dogs and pizza and ice cream aren't alive. Kale doesn't actually count. It's more or less just lettuce with an attitude. And Brussels sprouts are actually punishment. It's not really food at all. So I'm in the clear. We're done. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, how much time do we have left? 3 minutes left. Okay. So most students of Zen realize that an idea that first appears easy to understand can become a bit trickier when unpacked. And it starts out often easy and soft on the outside, but eventually becomes kind of hard and crunchy when you start to look at the insides of it. Did you know that's actually what sharks say to each other when they watch your legs thrashing in the surf? Yeah. Just the way I like them. soft and smooth on the outside, hard and crunchy on the inside. That is Gary Larson from the Far Side cartoon, if you've never heard it before. So anyway, come with me as I ring the warning bell. Someone ring the bell. Alert, alert. Thank you. Get the uninformed swimmers out of the Zendo water and let's raise the shark flag, because I want to unpack this thou shalt not kill thing. So the entirety of the first precept in our sutra book is as follows, and if you want to, say it along with me. Affirm life. I respect all sentient and insentient beings and always act with compassion towards them. In order for me to live, it is necessary for me to take life. I do so with reverence for the life taken. In gratitude, I do not take my own life for granted. The first part, those first two words, the actual precept, that suits me just fine. And the commentary that follows after that affirm life part, as I was looking into this, it feels more like a Hinayana perspective of don't mindlessly kill living creatures. And maybe you can correct me over lunch. Kind of try to avoid killing animals is why Hollow Bones retreats, I believe, have traditionally served vegetarian food. And many of the world's Buddhists are, in fact, vegetarian for that same reason. Do not kill. Some folks take the vegetarian view beyond not eating animals to vegan, which would be like don't eat or use animal products of any kind. But if you're a serious vegan, I mean, if you're like a level 5 hardcore vegan, you're going to have to wear a cloth over your face to avoid accidentally inhaling insects, and you'll stop wearing shoes and walk barefoot everywhere so that you don't accidentally step on any living creature. There's actually a level 6. There's a layer past vegan to fruitarian, right? Someone who eats only what's freely offered. The fruits, nuts, and seeds that fall from the plant are okay, but not until they fall into the ground on their own accord. Take this even one step farther to level 7. And even killing carrots and apples is prohibited, because those carrots probably had another agenda for the day other than being boiled alive in my cooking pot. So, thou shalt not kill, taken 100% literally, 24/7, no exceptions for any reasons. You're going to need to become a breatharian, living only on sunlight, water, and air. Take a guess why that group died out relatively quickly. So hard and fast rules taken literally without room for interpretation can lead to absurd outcomes. The Hinayana perspective of not killing animals is very widely accepted, and for the most part, it's where people stop examining that idea of do not kill. Now, fortunately, I think, fortunately, our Hollow Bones version of do not kill does not go to this extreme position. That's what all the commentary is about after the actual precept. And it says, if I choose to eat meat, I need to be respectful of the animal which died for me to have a meal. Seems very reasonable. There's nothing wrong with this point of view. But there is more to do not kill than just avoiding biological death. So that's kind of the Hinayana point of view. Let's look at the Mahayana point of view. Our lineage is Mahayana. So I like Elihu Gemmill Smith's interpretation from his book, Ordinary Life, Wondrous Life. He starts with something that's very analogous to affirm life. He says, do not destroy life. But then he continues on. He says, do not kill compassionate functioning. Commit to non-harming. Do not give rise to the notion of extinction. Now, all of a sudden, this has become a rather interesting topic. I think we're getting to the crunchy bits. So let's unpack a little more. The suggestion for how to act has opened up and is now needing some interpretation. What does it mean to kill compassionate functioning? What functioning? Whose functioning? Do not give rise to the notion of extinction? Really? Extinction of what? I mean, I get that he's somehow looking beyond biological life, but what is non-biological extinction? I mean, I don't even know what that means. Like maybe extinguishing a candle, killing a campfire, killing a six-pack? Or is it killing a person's joy? Do not extinguish hope. This is the sort of stuff that we tend to murder pretty regularly. Someone else's hope, someone else's joy. Our killing fields are in the world of interpersonal relations. Interactions between people is where I suggest we excel at killing. When was the last time you killed someone's joy? And how long has it been since you took the wind out of someone else's sails? You know what? You're kind of a wet blanket today. Quit it, man. Just like stop harshing my groove already, okay?
Do what I want.
Yeah. When was the last time you stepped on someone's happiness or hope or self-esteem with just a casual, offhanded comment? How about murdering someone's desire for change? What about shooting holes in the good work someone else has put great effort into? What if it's just a point of view that you disagree with? Did you shoot it or stab it with your steely knife? What took one person days or months to build, you can destroy in seconds with a few well-placed words. I know, because I've done it. I've also been on the receiving end of it. I have both killed and have been killed and can say neither feels good or does much good. Neither supports compassionate functioning. If you've paid any attention to the news lately, you'll know that Russia has recently targeted Ukraine's power grid, the electrical transformers and power plants that keep the lights and heat on. And with a few well-placed missiles, Russia took down nearly the entire electrical system of the country. It took many years to build what Russia managed to kill in just a few minutes. The same is true with people's hopes and dreams. Sometimes maybe their sense of self-worth, dignity. Examples? Show of hands. Anybody who would like to see an example? Who would like to hear an example? Well, took you long enough. I mean, was there another one over here? Is that all?
To offer an example or to hear an example?
No, who wants to hear an example? Is that all? Really? Are you finished yet? Seriously, is that the best you can do? What's your degree in actually, you know? Oh, I thought so. Yeah. Someone actually told me that once in public at a therapist's training to my face. And if you've ever lived in the South, you'll know they have a very special kind of dagger to stab you with. Where are you? Oh, you're trying so hard. Oh, bless your heart. Yeah. Yeah. This kind of killing does not actually need words. Just a look, a well-placed shrug of the shoulder or a tilt of the jaw, and a student is deflated. A geisha crushed. A teammate embarrassed, a partner invited to feel less than. A bit of disdain here, a dismissive glance there, 2 cups of OMG, half a cup of WTF, 2 teaspoons of rolling on the floor laughing, and your poison cake recipe is done, and I will kill you while smiling as I serve you a slice of murder cake. Anybody? It's delicious. I've got more. Don't be shy. So why? Why does this happen? Why are we vulnerable in this way? I mean, I keep hearing it. The teachers keep telling me, right? We're all already Buddhas. So I am immune to this sort of influence, right? I mean, shouldn't we all have risen above this? And I know personally, I have started levitating during Zazen, haven't you? I mean, what the fuck's wrong with you? How long have you been at this? Did you hear what I just did?
Yeah.
Yeah, I served you a couple more slices of murder. Slipped you a little invitation to feel ashamed of who you are, of what you might not know. Suggested that you might not be good enough, smart enough, or do enough. So, did it tingle when you heard that? Did you take a little bit of it? Or did you realize what I was doing and push the plate back and say, no, thank you. Not for me. The problem arises in that most of us, and I can say me for sure, are not quite at peace with our sense of self. We feel less than 100% confident and fully adequate. Our sense of well-being, self-worth, self-esteem, it's all still linked to external validations and external expressions. I'm still auditioning for the position, right? And I'm hoping that you're going to finally give it to me. We are only half awake, partially baked, and as such, vulnerable to flattery and compliments, but also vulnerable to guilting and shaming. Until we have done enough of our personal work, healed enough wounds, softened enough scar tissue, we are going to stay vulnerable to emotional manipulation, and we will remain trapped in this endless cycle of birth and death. So when the first precept is turned inward and becomes an intrapersonal exchange, how am I now with practicing this whole non-harming thing? How am I in relationship to myself? Do I maintain compassionate functioning directed at or around my own needs? For me personally, sometimes I can, but sometimes not. So we're going to be completely honest here. I was scared of your idea, but I didn't tell you that I was scared. I was too scared to even say that I was scared. So I just shot your idea down. And that way took care of my own feelings of being afraid by killing you off. I'm afraid of being rejected when you find out what I really want, so I never actually tell you. What you're going to hear is, oh yeah, that's fine. Oh, you pick, I don't care. Or whatever you want, dear. I lost my spot. So it's safer for me to let my vision die.
How long have you been doing this?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Ridiculous, isn't it? So maybe I don't have the confidence in myself to fully understand this idea, so I protect myself from feeling less than by killing you. How lovely. How is this any different than amoeba and paramecia fighting it out in pond scum to see who gets to eat lunch and who becomes lunch? I don't think there's much difference. So much for evolution. Right? Protecting me by extinguishing you does not affirm anyone's life. So this Mahayana interpretation of support life is precious and it is subtle. My world has been tipped upside down since I started really looking at this deeply for the last few weeks. I had to say, I've been involved in Zen for roughly 20 years, but now I'm starting all over. I am a beginner again. What happens to a person who embodies this precept? Most of us, including myself, only know this from the neck up. The rare ones, those who have stared at the wall long enough to have swallowed the red-hot iron ball and given up all hope of ever having a better past. Those who have embodied this way of being, this life of not killing, of compassionate function, they now present this way automatically. It is their true nature and nothing covers it up anymore. It is also our true nature. But speaking for myself, I still have enough injury, under-resourcing, overloading, and shock held within my system that my true nature and that embodied first precept is mostly covered up most of the time. So look around you. watch how people act towards themselves and towards others. You will recognize someone who is awakened by watching how they affirm life in every action, every interaction, every conversation, everywhere they go. This is the secret sauce. So here's the thing. If you forget everything else, all the other precepts, all the vows, every one of the sutras, everything in the sutra book, if you never read another book, and there's a marvelous library over there, remember only this one thing, and it will be more than adequate. Do not extinguish. Do not kill compassionate function. Regardless of inside or outside of yourself, wherever you find it, affirm life. I spent years watching for this, wanting to understand, what is it? What is it? When I found the occasional example, I would bring that story to my Sangha, and I'd call it a Zen cookie. And we'd share the story and listen to how the person in that story navigated some life situation with grace and equanimity, expressing kind, compassionate functioning that did not extinguish. Do not give rise to the notion of extinction. Those who are skillful in this and have embodied this still have a way of recognizing boundaries while choosing to protect all of the life that's present. This gets complicated. It's not that they don't have boundaries. It's about how they convey the location of the boundaries. It's not about becoming a doormat, nor is it about becoming hard and rigid. It's not about politically correct language either. It is about the energetic quality of this interaction. Does it affirm life? Does it maintain compassionate functioning? Does it lift up? Does it avoid extinction? So I'm going to ask again, how about anybody interested in some more examples? How about some positive examples of compassionate functioning? Yeah. Thank you. I need examples too. How did that feel compared to my previous responses? Better? Yeah, I thought so. Did you notice? I did it again. I just slipped another little one under the door sill. It wasn't big, but it was a little, just a little nick. Thought so. It takes incredible presence of mind to not miss that moment. Can you see what's possible? Do you notice? Are you present enough? Do you notice? And when you see, are you awake enough to be able to choose wisely and choose life instead of death? So a long time ago in a land far away at a Rohatsu not too different from this one, there was a pair of attendees who put on a skit for entertainment at the end of the retreat. They decided to have some verbal fun at the Roshi's expense. It was a sort of a celebrity roast thing. At first it was funny. It was very lighthearted and everybody laughed, but as the skit continued, the poking became a little more pointed, eventually bordering on malicious and almost downright mean. People continued to laugh, but not quite as loudly anymore. There were a few glances at the Roshi wondering, would they call a halt to this? Would they say, stop, that's far enough? But I watched, and interestingly, the Roshi, who shall remain nameless, just sat there, facial expression unchanged, and listened. They watched and watched along with the rest of us to see what was going to happen. Where was this going to go? How would this end? And they were unwilling to kill, even if it meant listening to some nasty things being said about them. Apparently, the Roshi had enough presence that they could hold what was said without causing harm to themselves, and by not speaking, they caused no harm to others. The skit ended, the performers were not interfered with in any way, there was no interruption of their functioning, even though they were not compassionate. And the Roshi was compassionate. I got to see something that day. My mind was blown. How did that Roshi do that? I mean, why? But mostly I wanted to know how. So there's a little older story from the 17th century, and I found this version on the Canando website, which is a Soto community that serves the San Francisco Bay Area. So at one time, Zen Master Hakuin lived in a village hermitage close to a food shop run by a couple and their beautiful young daughter. And one day the parents discovered that their daughter was pregnant. Angry and distraught, they demanded to know the name of the father. And at first, that woman would not confess. But after endless harassment from her parents, she gave in, and she named Hakuin as the father. Some versions say she did this to protect the identity of her boyfriend, and some say she tried to preserve her own reputation as an unmarried woman by naming someone who could have used their position of power to force themselves on her against her will. This version doesn't mention her motivation, but it's consistent in saying that, yeah, Hakuin's the dad. So the furious parents marched off to Hakuin's hermitage, berating him in front of all of his students in public in the village. And he simply replied, "Huh, is that so?" Eventually, the baby was born, and the family presented it to Hakuin to care for. And as the story goes, the result of this accusation and the childbirth caused Hakuin's reputation to be ruined. He lost all of his students and he lost his standing in the village. The stories also all agree that he took delight in caring well for that infant and was able to beg enough milk and food and all the other essentials from the villagers to care lovingly for this child. So about a year later, the young mother could no longer live with herself and what had turned out to be a lie after all, and confessed to her parents that the real father was in fact the young man who worked at the local fish market and not Hakuin. The parents were now mortified at hearing, and they went to Hakuin, sheepishly apologized and asked for his forgiveness for the way they had treated him. They also asked him to return the baby, please. And even though he loved the child as if it was his own, he did give the child back. And again, all he said was, "Huh, is that so?" Hakuin's story is not about an ordinary mind. It is an illustration of Buddha mind. It is about what our mind is capable of, equanimity in all situations. It's a love story of universal embrace of every situation without judgment. It illustrates the mind of no harming, of no attachments, of no self. This is compassionate functioning. It's a beautiful example of the first precept embodied. So, we are all still free to tell the mountain that it's too high and the road that it winds too much and that the ocean is too wet. But what good would it do? Would it actually do good? Would it maintain compassionate functioning? Does it express equanimity? Instead, suggest that you affirm life. And maybe this is what the First Nations people, when they talk, what the First Nations people mean when they talk about walking in the beauty way. Maybe this is the mensch that the Jewish folk talk about, being a real mensch. Does what you do or say support compassionate functioning? If not, perhaps it's best to do nothing or say nothing and be thought a fool than to open one's mouth and remove all doubt. As I spent time looking at this, I've come to realize that the foundational teaching of that first precept is so much more than I've actually been able to share, even though I am opening my mouth and I am removing any doubt, in case you had any. But I keep trying, and I find it hard to put into words, and I'm struggling to grasp the deep subtlety in this simple idea of firm life. The deeper I look, the more I see, and The more I see, the more depth is waiting to be noticed, waiting to be understood, waiting to be embodied. My engagement of the Dharma has completely changed. Everything is now different when seen through this lens of do not extinguish. I've even noticed that the Mu koan has changed for me. It's grown a tail. No killing. K-N-O-W. No compassion. I am learning all over again what it means to affirm life. And I am now dedicated to serving chocolate cake instead of murder cake. However vast and difficult true teachings are, I vow to embody and master them all. So come with me. Let's get back into the Zendo water. And all together, we can explore more deeply what affirm life might actually mean if fully embodied and completely expressed. And wishing to entice the blind, the Buddha has playfully let words escape his golden mouth. Heaven and earth are ever since filled with entangling briars. So be it.